Hey guys, and welcome to this new episode here. So this is going to be about the top 10 things to do in Beijing, China. So first of all, getting right into it. So it's important to note that you cannot use Google, Instagram, or Facebook in China. So when you're here, or YouTube as well, when you're here, please remember that you can't use those things. So what you should do is, first thing you should do when you're here is download the app BAIDU. So it's spelled BIDU. So go there, download that as soon as you get here. It's basically a search engine, the same as Google. You can use it here for pretty much anything, to search, to use it as transportation, as GPS, anything you want. So let's get into the video here, top 10 things to do in Beijing, China. So after we just traveled in Beijing, China, it's important to note that there's tons of things to do there. It depends on how many days you have, but we were there for about 4 or 5 days. Also, it's also important to note that it's very expensive in Beijing. As far as accommodation goes for foreigners, it's the most expensive city besides Shanghai as a place or a destination to stay in as a foreigner. You cannot just go and walk into any hotel and say, hey, I want to stay here. That goes for most of China. China has made it so foreigners are only allowed to stay in certain hotels or hostels. So you should know that that is very important when you're coming to travel here, is to make sure that you book your hostel or your hotel and you look at the guidelines to it, knowing that basically knowing that you can stay there or not. First thing that we did, and this is the top 10 things to do. So number one would be Tiananmen Square. So Tiananmen Square is, as you see here, Tiananmen Square is basically a government street. It's everything to do with politics. It's everything to do with government, everything. So every building on there has to do with politics. So there's probably some of the most fancy looking buildings right on that street. And just trying to get into that street, they really limit you. So you cannot turn left, you cannot turn right. There's government officials, there's police everywhere, basically watching everything. There's surveillance cameras everywhere. So even when you're walking on the streets, you have to go through security lineups and put your bag in through the security just to get onto the street. So it's very important place for government. It's also a really cool place to check out. There's lots of awesome pictures you can take there. There's things to see. There's really good food. So yeah, that would be the first thing, number one, what to do in Beijing. Second thing, you're probably going to see that too as you're coming in from the airports. That's another thing to note. Don't take taxis. Taxis are expensive. Take a shuttle or take local transit. That's the best way to travel China is in a budget, is to basically travel like the locals. So do it through bus, do it through transit, do it through metro. Beijing has hands down one of the best metro and subway / SkyTrain. I call it SkyTrain where I come from in Vancouver, but has one of the best in the world. It's so quick, so fast, and millions of people use it on a daily basis. So it's like any other city. You buy a card and you load your money onto it, or you can buy a day pass, and it's fairly cheap. I think it was like 3 yen to go from one place to the next. It's really cheap. It's a good way to travel. So our second place that's important about Beijing to check out would be the Forbidden City. So go see the Forbidden City. That is definitely something to do. An imperial palace. It was built back in the 15th century. There's tons of people that visit it on a daily basis. So make sure you get your ticket possibly in advance if you have time. That's another thing to note, guys. Attractions and places to see in Beijing are some of the cheapest out of all of China. They have not changed their prices in over like 100 years. Like, they literally just don't change their pricing. So it's really cheap to get into places, but it's really expensive to stay in places. So that's something to note about Beijing. But the Forbidden City, guys, it's something to see. It's like the main event almost besides the Great Wall, which I'll be getting into next. The Forbidden City is a very, very awesome place to check out. You can get so many amazing pictures, and there's lots of history there. Allow yourself a good solid 4 hours-ish if you want to see everything. There's a lot of treasure involved there, so you can spend a little bit more money to see the treasure that they have there. There's like jewelry, there's gold, there's all sorts of stuff there to check out. But give yourself enough time. That was kind of more of like almost a full day event, because if you do Tiananmen Square and you do the Forbidden City, those kind of are hand in hand, they're right beside one another. So that's number 2. So number 3, the Great Wall. Number 3 would be the Great Wall, guys. You have to go see the Great Wall. It's the main thing for you to do in Beijing. That was the main thing for me to do in Beijing. It was a bucket list item for myself, and it is one of the wonders of the world. So yeah, so a little bit of history about the Great Wall. It was not built by one person. It was built by many, many people over years and years and years. Actually, it was first started, I think, in 200 BC by one of the most famous emperors, which was Ming, I believe is his name. But he's one of the most famous emperors to date in China. So it was built over years, many, many, many years. So it was built basically so other outsiders that were bigger and stronger than China would not come into Beijing and raid them and take over Beijing. So they built the wall to keep them out, and it was really, really defensive place to have, like, because you're way up on the wall. You can just huck javelins or bow and arrows or tar or anything on people, right? So it was very awesome to have to defend Beijing, to defend the city of China. So, by the way, Beijing is the capital of China, if you don't already know this. So yeah, so that's number 3. Number 4 would be South Ganzhou Lane. You have to go here if you're going to want to get some souvenirs. It's really awesome for food. By the way, Beijing has some of the best food. It's so good. I love Beijing food. South Ganzhou Lane is a must visit. Lots of souvenirs to buy there. Anything, pretty much anything you want. Just walk around, check things out. It's a must visit. So that's number 4. So number 5 is Cigarrette Oblique Street. That's kind of the Chinese name for it, but for us, we just call it the Bar Street. So it's the main street in Beijing. It's the main street. Go there, spend a lot of time. There is some of the best food in Beijing there. We had a hot pot there. There's an amazing hot pot there, food. There's so much like souvenirs, walking around, checking out things. You can go on boats, these little tiny wooden boats that they steer for you in the back. It's easy to get from one place to the next. Just walk around, have a beer, have a drink, listen to some music. There's lots of food there. Spend a solid couple hours there. It's a really awesome place to visit. So that's number 5. Number 6 would be BEIHAI Park. So BEIHAI Park is a really cool park in the city. You can walk around, take pictures, just relax. That's one thing that I would highly recommend you do, because there's a lot of walking to do in Beijing. So just go there and take it easy and relax. Maybe eat some food, spend some time with some people, some friends, or your partner, or whoever. So BEIHAI Park, that's a must visit as well. Number 7 is the Summer Palace. This is definitely something to do as well. This may be an all-day event for you, or it could be a half-day event. The Summer Palace is basically, for me in Vancouver, it's like a Stanley Park. One big area, you get in, you can bike around, you can walk around. There's a lake all around that you can check out. And there's actually a temple there to check out as well. You'll see it once you get in. It's one of the main temples. We weren't able to go inside because it closed at around 5 p.m. So that's something to note. You want to go in there before 5 p.m. Spend a lot of time there, guys. There's so many awesome pictures that you can get there. It's something definitely to check out. And if you go there around sunset, it's beautiful for pictures. It's stunning. So yeah, so that's definitely, Summer Palace is definitely a thing to check out in Beijing. Number 8 would be the Temple of Heaven. So the Temple of Heaven is a temple that is the oldest wooden structure in China to date that's still standing. So it's been visited by leaders around the world. It's a very famous place. We went there. We spent a solid, couple hours checking out that whole area. There's a lot to see in the Temple of Heaven. There's not just the Temple of Heaven. There's a couple other things to see. Yeah, go there. Spend most of the day there. It's the history involved there is awesome. It's one of the oldest wooden buildings in China that's still standing, and it's awesome for pictures as well. So if you're all about Instagram and stuff like that, that's something to check out. Number 9, I would say would be the LLAMA Temple. Yes, you definitely have to go here if you're in Beijing. This is a must. I know I say that for every single one, but this is something you should do. Pay your respects to the city, pay your respects to Beijing. The LLAMA Temple is basically a bunch of temples all in one area that you go in, you pray, you can give your respect, you get your incense, do your blessings, and show your respect to the city of Beijing. So that would be number 9. Spend a solid hour or 2 there. You can to spend there, and it's also really easy to get around to most of these places. For us, me and my wife, all we did was transit. We just used metro. It's very easy to get to all these places if you use transit. It's very easy. You don't need a tour guide in Beijing. You really don't, unless you really want it. If you go to these places, you can buy one of those earpieces. They have it in both English and in Mandarin, and I believe it's in other languages as well. So that would be number 9. Last but not least is number 10. So I call it Olympic Stadium, but it's actually called Bird's Nest in a Water Cube. Let's just wait for that airplane to go over here. I don't know if you guys remember, but back in 2012, the Olympic Games were played here in Beijing, and it was amazing. Like just to be able to go walk down to the Olympic stadiums, it's awesome. They have the Water Olympics, stadium there, and they have the main stadium, and then there's a whole area you can check out all around that area. So you can actually take the metro right to the stadium pretty much. It's really close. So that would be number 10, I would say. When you're in Beijing, try the duck. You have to try duck. You have to try the Peking duck. It is some of the best in the world. Even if you're not a duck fan, you have to try it. It is so good. Lamb hot pot is another thing to try out. So Peking duck and lamb hot pot are definitely things to check out and eat in Beijing. It is so good. I guarantee you will not walk around a normal street and not be able to find duck or lamb. Lamb is on skewers and it is so good. So that would be the top 10 things that I would recommend in Beijing for you guys to do. Thanks for watching, guys. I hope you like some of these things that I've said, because if I was to go to Beijing again and if it was my first time, I would totally do all these things. Just wanted to say thanks for watching, guys, and if you liked this video, please like and please comment below and subscribe to my channel. I am starting to get more into my YouTube channel. I know I've been kind of just doing travel videos, but now I'm going to start to do info and travel tips and travel advice on where to go and what to see and how to do it, guys. So for me, I'm always on a budget. Me and my wife are always on a budget. We don't live in luxury. We are on a budget, and so like us, we're budget travelers. More or less, you're probably a budget traveler, so you can connect with me. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching. I love you guys all, and live life, travel, and thanks for watching, guys. I really appreciate it. Comment below, subscribe. All right, we'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.